The SPY and the Qs had 9 million contracts. That's right, 9 million contracts on the line today. And so we were looking for a big move, and that big move came to the downside pretty quick. But are we crashing? Today we're going to be talking about the SPY, Qs, and we're going to go into Apple and Tesla. And the question we have to answer today is, are we crashing? First thing we're going to talk about is what's written on my screen here. 80% of the time, a new gap will be filled in the next 5 trading sessions. And what do we have above us now? That's right, it's a new gap, okay? So these things like to act like magnets, so it does not at all deter us from being able to come up into this level one more time. And as we look in the past, we see this market went down 2%. It's gone up 2%, and now it's down 1.75%. And that does not mean that we cannot go right back up 1.75% again. I'm going to move my note over to the side of the screen. I highly suggest you write that down. It's actually a very good thing to know. And what we have to see here is SPY going to continue to crash? And today, yes, this is a big down move. We have a huge gap showing a lot of selling, but we had quad witching. A lot of those bets with the quad witching in options was to the downside, so it makes sense that we want to make a big move down even after our little data drop, which consumer sentiment came in low. Even though we want to figure out if we are crashing right now, maybe it's better to just see if you should short from these levels. And really, the only thing I'm mainly looking at is I probably wouldn't short here because we didn't take out this prior low. By not taking out that prior low, we do open the door for this gap to be filled. And then I would rather get some shorts up in this position at an elevated level rather than trying to short when a big move has already happened. We just switch over to the Qs, we can see that this low here was not broken, and we're actually holding on that 200 moving average on the hourly. And the other thing we can note is we're actually almost on the RSI here to oversold readings. So would I be shorting here? No. Even though I'm saying I wouldn't be shorting here, it does not mean that this can't continue. If there is enough bearishness in the market, this could easily continue. But I'm just saying at this level, I personally, as my trading strategy, would not be comfortable to take a short. I would rather see this probably turn around, come back and at least fill this gap. And if not next week, maybe get some big momentum to the upside and come and fill this gap. And then I would feel real comfortable shorting up in here. But this video is not really about my predictions. That video will come out Sunday, so subscribe if you're interested to get my predictions for next week. And let's continue on to Apple. On Apple, we were looking for that double dip, and that's exactly what we got, and we started to see this pop. And yesterday, I told you that if this thing wanted to come up into prior resistances, I thought it maybe would come out of it as like a fake out. So it's actually pretty cool because it actually touched the top of our resistance here and then just fell off. But we said if it did come out and fade, then we would see it head to a lower level, but we have not passed these lows. The fact that we didn't cut these lows is actually a pretty big deal because Apple is one of the biggest stocks in the entire market. So the fact that on such a bloody day, we did not see Apple come down and make a new low and then maybe retest and come even lower is a big deal. And it starts to open the door to the fact of we could pop out of this zone. And actually, because we had so many buyers in this area now, in so much time in this area, we actually could see a small retest and then go to higher levels and start filling this gap right up in here at around 182.92. Now, if Apple would have made a new low and bounced up and made another new low, I definitely would be in the boat of this thing could be crashing further. But right now, I can't say that. We're going to have to look at that on Sunday's video and see what kind of predictions to the bearish side that we can come up with. The reason I'm thinking that we're not crashing is because of Tesla. If you look here, Tesla, we said that Tesla might want to raise up into these levels, but if it did it too quickly, in yesterday's video we noted this, if it did it too quickly, then I would be scared for the bulls that this thing would start to fade throughout the day. The fact that it actually tapered off from this level isn't necessarily the worst thing. What it did for us, if we just go down here and look at the RSI, let me blow it up a little bit, we can see that it actually got us out of some oversold conditions, almost overbought conditions over here, and then overbought conditions over here. We're actually sitting above the 50 line now, which is actually strength, and we could see Tesla make that move higher, possibly up to its gap fill by the time of, Wednesday the 20th. Now, if Tesla decides to come down into this bottom of the channel here and then pop up and then break that channel, that's when I will officially start to say, Tesla is crashing, watch out below. God, I want to give my predictions on the bullish and bearish case for now, but we'll save that for Sunday. Something I left out in my last video, but I want to touch on it today because I'm noticing this big triangle is actually holding pretty firm at the top here at many times, is the VIX. So the VIX actually came up and made this high here, and you've seen that we actually touched a point that lines up with that. We touched another point that lines up with it, and we touched another point today that could line up with it, which kind of signals that it's a great thing that we filled that gap and we got a little pop right after we did that, but we easily could see this drop to lower levels over the next few days. Lastly, I just want to show you what happens when this VIX does get into overbought conditions. Okay, so over here, we're in overbought conditions, and what happens? We fall off, the market gets a little bounce. Okay, over here, we have overbought conditions. What happens? We fall off, we maybe get a little bounce. Now, it doesn't last that long, but we get a little bounce. Now, what happens up here when we get a divergence on the RSI and we get almost like pretty much touching the overbought conditions, we get a serious downturn. Well, in the VIX, so that means we get a pop, a bigger pop in the market. Now, what about right here? We're not in overbought conditions, okay? We're not, but we're coming into the top of this trend line, and then we react off of it, and we see a huge bounce in the market. Kind of is just telling me that this trend line actually makes sense, and especially how we're reacting, and we went right back up to it today. So, but as you can see on the RSI, what are we? We are extremely oversold on a shorter time frame. It doesn't mean that we can't see this extend higher with more volatility, but right now the overall behavior in the past tells us that this thing at least needs to pull back maybe to its 50 coming up before we see more volatility. I'll give you guys what I think the VIX is going to do next week, but you'll have to wait till Sunday for that, okay? So are we crashing right now? It's hard to say. It was a very bloody day, but we're not taking out those prior lows. So we want to make sure to be watching those lows and seeing if price can make a new one and then get some kind of bounce that gives us a better opportunity on shorter time frames to find a point of entry for a possible short. But right now, you got to think, gaps get filled 80% of the time in the next 5 trading sessions. So that just tells me that we left a gap today. That thing could be filled in the next 5 days. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Peace.